of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we have the roll call?
Okay. Director Underhill,
Here.
Director Ratterman,
Here.
Director Thomas,
I'm here.
President Cicada,
Here.
and doesn't look like Director Davidson has logged in at this point.
We'll keep moving and hopefully he'll join us. All right, this is the time for a public comment. Members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. And we have no one here in the building, so do we have any public comment online? None? Seeing no public comment, moving on to item number 3, the consent agenda. The following items are expected to be routine, non-controversial. Items will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that any item be removed for later discussion. Is there any board member that wants to pull an item?
I would just like to pull 3C.
3C. Anyone else?
And move for acceptance of 3A, B, D, and E.
You have a second?
Second.
Get a roll call there, Rebecca?
Director Underhill,
Here. Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Cicada.
Yes. Okay, Bertha, let's go
Oh,
to
yeah.
item 3C.
Yes, and there's nothing that I want to discuss right now about any specific item, but I just would like to share with the board that I find it works very, very well if you call in the day before or a couple of days before after you've received your board packet and, to call out any questions that you might have on the claim summary, because, the staff is able to look at it right away and get back to you and there's no problems. That's all I wanted to say.
That was a nice comment. Any other discussion?
Since this has been pulled, I have a couple of questions. Seeing on, oh my goodness, the page isn't labeled, but it's the item that's paid to Coal to Scornia for the installation of 23 solar units for the AMR project. This is the first time we've seen. It's the first time we've seen a disbursement to Coal to Scornia for this effort, and I thought that most of this was being handled by our contract with Mueller. So am I wrong about that, or what can you explain where this I don't know, $38,000 came in?
So Damon's probably the best person to answer this question, but my understanding is the installation of the solar panels for the AMI infrastructure was our responsibility. And our electricians have done a lot of that work, I think, in-house. But Damon, do you have any other comments on that?
Are you looking to Damon?
I'll follow up with you and confirm, but that's my understanding of that aspect of the project.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you're right, Michael. The raising the panels themselves, though, was going to be, there was knocked back and forth between Mueller and CCWD on who would be best poised to do the work, and CCWD felt the local contractor who knows the area would be best equipped to do the work. It could have potentially fallen on JME's hands for doing other portions of the network, but CCWD felt this was the most efficient, and so they deployed the services to Scornia to knock that out, and it will be pushed, to the USDA for for the funding that portion of the work.
Okay, thanks for that explanation. And the only other question I saw in here was the check to U.S. Geologic Survey for a stream gauging program, a 1 year, no, I guess, what is it? Yeah, 21 to 22, $36,280 for a stream gauging program. I've never seen this item on this report before.
Michael?
So that's an annual expense. I think, and Brad, if you're on, feel free to jump in, but I think some of that is reimbursable. If those are Northport project screen gauges. But I believe that is an annual expense.
Okay.
Yeah, good. That's my annual cost for the North project, where you comes out and validate the stages that NCPA rolls, and it is reimbursable from NCPA.
He's breaking up pretty bad. So is that another offline discussion?
Well, yeah, I can talk to you about this later, but Brad, you are a little garbled, so.
And after that discussion, if you feel it needs some discussion back to the board.
Sure. Okay, having heard those, I'd like to move item 3C.
We have a second?
Second?
I'll second. Okay, Bertha seconds. Roll call vote.
I see Director Davidson has joined us.
Hello,
Yep.
Director Davidson.
I finally cracked the code. Sorry about that.
Okay, Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
Director Cicada,
Yes.
and Director Davidson, do you care to vote or you want to skip?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Excuse me,
moving on.
can
Go
we
ahead.
just ask one more thing on the claim summary? Could we have the pages numbered? That would make it much easier for us as we,
Yeah,
if when we, they used to be.
Yes, I'll do that.
Thank you,
Okay,
Rebecca.
thank you.
All right, moving on to new business 4A, presentation of the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021 by Richardson and Company. And that will be Jeff. Hello, Jeff.
Good afternoon,
Jeffrey.
Madam President. Do you see me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but it's a little fun. Give him
Okay.
Rebecca. All right, let's work with that, see how that goes. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board. It's a pleasure being in front of you once again. Today's item is the annual financial statements for this fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. It's I have to give kudos to both Rebecca and Patty, who put a significant amount of work into this project, working with Brian Nash and his group of Richardson and Company. I just stepped in at the very end to prepare the MD&A and to help Brian and Patty finalize the audit. As usual, the district received an unqualified opinion for the audit, which is basically a clean opinion. And there are a few footnotes in the management letter that I believe Brian will go over, but I think all in all, it's a very good audit report, and you should be proud of your staff for this effort. And at this point, Rebecca, I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I was told I would be receiving control so I could walk through the financial statements. Haven't used Microsoft Teams. I don't see how that's working here.
So Brian, can I interrupt? There's near the leave button on your screen, there's a little arrow that said, and when you hover over it, it's
There it
share
is.
content. You can just
Okay.
take control on your own.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, are the financial statements large enough?
Not for me, but I can look at my hard copy.
I can make them a little bigger here. Okay, so as Jeff mentioned, we worked with Patty and Rebecca to complete these financial statements. You should have, there's 3 items in the package. One is the audited financial statements that I have on my screen, and there's also 2 letters. One letter is what's titled at the top governance letter, which is a letter of required disclosures to a governing body under audit standards. And then the second letter is a management letter that Jeff mentioned, has a few recommendations in it. I'll cover all of those. I'm going to cover the high points in the financial statements. As Jeff mentioned, we have what's called a clean opinion on the financial statements, an unmodified opinion. This is our opinion. We do have an emphasis of a matter, excuse me, because we implemented a new accounting standard related to fiduciary activities that you see on my screen. That affected the what was called the agency funds. There's a number of special districts that the district does accounting for and holds their cash. So there was a new accounting standard that had us take a look at how those were recorded. And there's a restatement related to moving one of those into the district's financial statements because of the criteria in this new standard about how entities that are reported as fiduciary activities, the criteria that exist for classifying them as fiduciary activities or part of the district's operations. So there was one of those items that one of the fiduciary funds was moved back into the water fund during the year. And there's a footnote explaining that later in the financial statements that I'll show you. We're going to do what's called a single audit. It hasn't been prepared yet. It's due March 31st. A single audit is a compliance audit of federal grant funding. There was enough federal grant funding during 2021 that we'll have to do a compliance audit. That's not presented now because it's not complete yet. Schedule that in the near future. Okay. Some of the required disclosures, the scope of our audit was consistent with our engagement letter. The only difficulty we encountered during the audit was the number of adjustments we posted. Your accountant was reaching retirement, and I think didn't quite close the books quite as well as normal. So we did have over 40 audit adjustments that increased the time it took to complete the audit. We didn't have any disagreements with management, no conditions on them hiring us. I'm going to go to this is the management's discussion and analysis. This is a executive summary of what's in the financial statement. So if you just have a short amount of time to look at the financial statement, it's a good place to start. I'm going to be covering some of the major changes that are discussed in the management's discussion and analysis that Jeff helped prepare. I wanted to show you one of the issues that we're always concerned with that we've been talking about in the past is the sewer fund. And it had deficits in the past and it had borrowed from the water fund. Pleased to report that the deficit decreased slightly. There is cash now in the sewer fund, and there's a borrowing that has declined. It was over $1 million. It's now down to $886,000 at the end of 21. So there were payments being made on that. This was deficit borrowing. There's a deficit here of unrestricted net position that has declined a little bit in 2021. So positive movement. There was a rate study that I believe Jeff was involved in a few years back that it was designed to help alleviate this problem where there was deficit spending by this sewer fund. So pleased to present that's starting to be resolved. So looking at the balance sheet here, some of the major changes, there's accounts receivable declined quite significantly, and that was because there was a PG&E settlement accrued in 2020 that was collected during 2021, so it was really unusually high in the prior year. Restricted cash increased. There's a $5 million COP bond that was for the automatic meter project. There was cash received at the end of the year and it wasn't spent. So without that 5 million, the restricted cash would have declined due to spending on some capital projects. So the capital projects, the capital assets increased about $5 million. The two big projects there were the Ebbets Pass Techite project and the Ebbets Pass Reach 1 line project. So those were the lion's share of all the spending there. On the liability side, you'll see the long-term liabilities increase. That was that $5 million COP debt mainly. There are some leases as well. The pension liability increased about 800,000, and that was just largely due to the investment earnings not keeping up with the interest on the net pension liability. The OPEB liability, the other post-employment benefit liability, actually declined. So that was good news. There is a footnote describing all of the changes that occurred in the post-retirement healthcare benefits program. I'll mention that as I get to the footnotes. So let's see here at the bottom of the balance sheet, there's unrestricted net position in the water fund is 4.3 million. So that's the spendable on general operations. There's quite a bit of restricted net position for the expansion fees and R&R fees. So those it's still $23 million there as well. But the unrestricted net position of the water funds of over 4 million. We did talk about the deficit on the sewer fund that's slowly declining. On the income statement, revenues increased, operating revenues increased about 6%. Expenses increased a little more than that, about 8.4%. There were some increased costs according to our fluctuation analysis that we went over with Patty and Rebecca. The new Hogan cost increased, the FERC annual charges increased some. There was increased chemical costs and legal fees are up. So those are some of the things causing that. Also, the depreciation was up about 300,000, which contributed to it. The capital contributions here at the bottom show your renovation, replacement fees, and expansion fees. Very strong revenue source there. In total, there was positive change in net position in both funds, about $4.5 million in total. You'll see the restatement at the bottom to bring one of the fiduciary funds into actually into the sewer fund. And there's a footnote explaining that. One of the second to the last footnote, I'll show it to you in just a moment. So the footnotes start at page 21. Oh, one change. So we used to call these special districts that the assessment district custodial funds used to be called agency funds. They're now called custodial funds due to implementing that new accounting standard. It used to be that we would just show a statement of net position But now we also show the activity, a statement of changes in fiduciary net position. When they were agency funds, they didn't have any net position. They just showed assets and liabilities. So we show a restatement to report all of the net position that existed in those funds that have always been accounted for with assets, liabilities, revenues, expenses, and net position. It have always been there in the general ledger. They just had never been reported that way in the past. So that's a change in case you wondered what happened there. So the footnotes explain the accounting standards that are being used by the district. Did want to pause at the cash and investment footnote. There used to be that it was just investments in LAIF. There's the investment portfolio that was entered into in the current year that it shows all the different types of investments that the district is now invested in. And because of that, we also had to show maturities of investments. It shows the maturity categories and it shows the ratings of the investments, all pretty well rated, really high rated investments that the district has. The debt footnote shows the $5 million participation for the automatic meter project. And it also shows the capital leases for the fleet, as well as the capital lease for, let's see, there was one other capital lease. It was for, the vacuum truck. There was a vacuum truck lease that was new in the current year. So going on to, this is the net position reserves that the board approves. On the right-hand side, it shows the amounts as approved by the board. And on the left, it shows the amounts as limited to the amount of net position that exists. So there's no net position in the sewer fund. There's just a deficit, so we don't show any there. And then that shows the ones, the reserves that are funded on the left, and these are the full amounts on the right. So the water resources and FERC reserve and the 90-day emergency operating reserve are not fully funded because there's not enough net position at the end of the year. There's very significant amount of information on the pension and post-retirement health benefit plan that shows you how all of the liabilities were computed. It shows all the assumptions that were used. I'm not going to go into those in any detail.
Can you do me a favor when you turn pages? Tell me what page you're stopping at.
Okay.
It's easier for you to follow. I'm trying to keep up. Thank you.
Okay, I'll do that. So I'm on page 96 of the package, and it's page 45 of the financial statements. And so this shows
Thank you.
the restatement due to GASB 84, the Wallace Assessment District Agency Fund was combined with the sewer fund, and there's criteria that were used to determine why that occurred. In GASB statement number 84, if the agency funds were developed to pay district expenses, and the board controls those assessment districts. If the board of the water district the CCWD's board is the board of these assessment districts, and the amounts that are going to be paid back by the districts go to CCWD, then it should have been pulled in as a part of the district's operations. The ones that remain all have external debt. So that's the difference. And then this subsequent event footnote here discloses the really significant changes that occurred in the OPEB plan, the post-retirement healthcare benefit plan, where the retirement health savings accounts were set up for all employees. All new employees are going to have one of those, only have one of those retiree health savings accounts. They're not able to join the defined benefit retirement OPEB plan, the post-retirement healthcare benefit plan anymore. It discusses the ability for existing employees to convert to the new approach, and then there's about $500,000 of payments to fund their accounts based on the benefit that the board approved, the incentive to convert to the new program. So this should really affect the amount of the post-retirement healthcare benefit liability that exists. There probably still will be some liability since not all employees converted, but this should really reduce the amount of liability going forward. And so it's something that we'd be looking forward to in the next actuarial valuation for the post-retirement healthcare benefit plan. Then I wanted to show you the funded percentage. This is trend information for the pension plan. This is in what's called required supplementary information. It's page 99 of the package, and it's page 46 of the financial statements. Over here on the top, it'll show you the fiduciary net position as a percentage of the total pension liability. This is the funded percentage. And it's about 87% for the district, because the district did make some contributions in addition to what CalPERS requires. So this is higher than most other clients that I have. The pool itself is in the high 70s, I believe, as far as a funded percentage, but the district's plan is 89% funded. So that's very good. The retiree health insurance, the post-retirement healthcare benefits, or what we call OPEB, 63% funded. That's this percentage here. And that's also very good in relation to most of my other clients. Most of our clients are struggling to fund this one especially. So even before you made those changes that should reduce the number of employees that receive this benefit, was still 64% funded, which was pretty good. And then the last disclosures in the financial statements, although this are the custodial funds that you have. Scroll by these, and I'm ending up on page 107 of your package. And this is page 53 of the financial statements. This shows the debt service coverage ratios. This one is the water fund, over 4 with the 1.25% requirement, 3% with all debt with the 1.25 requirements. Very good debt service coverage ratios. This is the sewer fund, the next page. Once again, very good debt service coverage ratios. The district's doing very well on those. So that's all I had on the financial statements. I'd be happy to answer any questions or cover anything in more detail.
Thank you.
I'll go to the management letter.
Any questions out there from the board so far?
Nope.
I have a couple. I can't remember what page it's on, but there's a reference to the amount of money that we should be anticipating spending on perfecting our FERC license on the North Fork project. And in poring over these financial statements, I don't see anywhere there's a footnote or an asterisk or anything that puts any value to the assets that I've always been told that the district owns on the North Fork project. That phrase is consistently used, that we own these assets, they're being managed by someone else, but we're showing only 120 or 140 million of assets net of depreciation. But if we have any interest in those assets on the North Fork, that should be double that value. So explain to me why we're not showing some reference to the value of those assets.
Hey, Jeff, I think maybe you would be a good one, since you have more history than I do with the district. What happened with those assets when they're originally purchased or constructed.
Director Thomas, I'm going to have to look into that. I know several years back that was asked a question of me and the board and finance at that time. Unfortunately, time has whittled away at my memory on that issue, but I can look into that and get back to you. But unfortunately, at this time, I don't have a concrete answer for you.
Okay.
I don't know.
Just a mystery.
We're back on that.
That's all.
Why don't we get some information on that going forward?
Okay.
This meeting or offline, however. All right, going to move forward
I have
on
some,
the letters.
Did you have one other question? Or was that it?
No, that was all.
Okay.
I have a question on the management letter. You,
Okay.
there are a couple of paragraphs where you make recommendations, but from one year to the next, I don't see any kind of, answer to us. Because I know you did that last year also, right? You specified changes that you wanted to see, but we don't know if those changes were ever made.
So anything that I still have in this management letter are the ones that are still in progress. I don't think there was anything removed in the current year. So typically what I would see or what I would recommend is that management address the management letter comments and discuss its plans on implementation. It is possible that you could look into one of these in detail when you're addressing it and decide that you don't believe it's necessary, which sometimes that does happen. That could be one of the answers, or management could discuss its plans to address these comments. So that's something that maybe could be presented at a subsequent board meeting. That's
And
typically what
we
happens.
did do that after last year's audit.
In the
Rebecca
finance committee.
Rebecca Cowan provided a detailed presentation of management's response to those comments, and I would expect that we would do something like that again.
Michael, I think we should at, another meeting or two, whatever,
Yeah.
respond to all those recommendations.
Hey, maybe we could take that to the finance committee.
Well, I think we did it first, but we also brought it to the full board, but I think we should do that.
Okay.
That should probably be a regular process that we do after these, if there's recommendations. Okay, any other questions?
I have comment.
Go ahead, Scott. Scott, you had a question?
Okay.
Comment?
No, it's always, I just have a couple comments. I have no questions. I think Bertha kind of hit on what I was going to comment on the management letter, which I think I did the same thing last year. And yes, we did have a meeting explaining a lot of the suggestions. And from what I understand is the amount of employees we have, some of this we can't do, where we don't have enough employees to separate some of the activities. But and I probably will hear that again. But I'd like to see if what Brian says is accurate, that these are a lot of the same ones that were pointed out last year. Do we have any when we do follow up? And I'm not looking for answers today. I would like a full presentation of each of these deficiencies or material weaknesses that are outlined in the management letter. I think this is the most important part of this audit, and it's always great to see that. And I think I say that same thing every single year to Brian, that it's great to see these recommendations. And also wanted to say, great to see Jeff Meyer, smile and face again. And I know you do have the answer to that North Fork project question. I've heard it before, and I've slept since then as well and don't remember the answer. But there is a reason why those assets aren't in this report, and I can't remember what it is either. That's all I have today. I'm just looking forward to the answers to these deficiencies and weaknesses. And if we can close any of those gaps, that would be awesome.
Director Adderman? What I can do is we can go back to look at prior management letters from the prior audits, make a list of all those and show what has been taken care of, what was done to mediate those or mitigate those. And as you mentioned, sometimes the district is too small in the number of employees to be able to fully implement some of the recommendations, but we can report back to the board looking back over several years so that you can see the progress the district has made.
Thank you. That would be awesome. That'd be even better than what I'm requesting. That'd be a better picture of the entire project as well. Thanks, Jeff.
Yes. And let me add my thanks also, Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Director Davidson. Yeah, I just want to comment on and I'm happy to see our loan to debt ratio in such good shape. And I'm just curious with Michael maybe responding, is there any seeing all the needs that we have right now, is there a likelihood that we may actually borrow a little more money, or are we just pretty content with where we're at? It seems to me like we might have an opportunity. So I'd just like to hear a response to that.
Yeah, and actually I was going to touch on that in my reports, but we're going to bring back a detailed presentation on the work that staff is doing right now, along with our consultant, Julio Morales at Urban Futures, to put together a financing plan to implement the CIP that the board has adopted, and it will eat into that ratio. We're in good shape right now, but we need it. And we need to leverage that in order to implement the projects that we have on the books.
Yeah, well, I think, we all can tell what's going to happen with interest rates here soon. So, I'm not in a big hurry to take on a lot of debt, but I think we certainly want to explore that opportunity while interest is still historically low.
We've been digging into that in depth, and like I said, we'll be bringing back detailed presentations to the Finance Committee and the board on that within the next month.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Can I move for acceptance?
Second.
Okay, any public comment? Seeing any out there, Rebecca? Okay, we have a first and a second.
I have one quick comment, Cindy, if I could, back to
Sure.
Brian reported on what a great position we're in with our OPEB, and again, I think thanks to Jeff Myers who recommended that we get to that point. I don't think we would have been there without his insight and knowledge as to how to handle that problem, those unfunded liabilities. And thanks again. I'm ready to vote on this.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. So we have a first and a second and no public comments. So Rebecca, ready for roll?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Cicada.
Yes.
And if I could, I also just want to acknowledge Jeff for stepping in at the end and helping us wrap this up, Rebecca Callan and Patty and our new accountant, Catherine, and Brian, the whole team that puts a lot of work into this. Thank you all for the presentation and for the work that went into it. And just to touch on Scott's final point there, you're absolutely right that the district has made, I think, very financially responsible decisions over the last 10, 12 years to put us in that position, both on pension and OPEB liability. But the next step will be an evaluation of how the changes we made to OPEB are going to impact the long-term liability. That's something that we hope to present on at the next board meeting if we're finished with the reports. If not, it would be at the meeting after that. But we'll come back to the board with at least a preliminary assessment of how the actions the board took last summer will impact the OPEB liability. So we'll be
Michael,
reporting back on that shortly.
will that tell us how many of the employees opted to go a different direction?
Yeah, we have all that data already, but what we are waiting to pull together in is really kind of what the financial impact is and what that new long-term liability looks like, and how we go about managing that. So.
Okay, great. Okay, moving on to item 4B, discussion and action regarding appointment to board committees and election of members to joint power authorities. And upon the review of the request, we added a couple of alternates, one for the Eastern San Joaquin Groundwater Authority and one for the UMRA. Other than that, everybody stayed the same. And Michael, do you have anything else to offer on that?
No, the only thing I would add is currently the East Side GSA is represented by Director Thomas, and the alternate is Walt Ward. We can talk about that a little bit more later in the meeting. With Walt's retirement, we're going to have to revisit the appointments to the Groundwater Authority. And then there's been some discussion among the Eastside GSA about who the appropriate representatives from our GSA to the Groundwater Authority are. So there may be some changes on that down the road, but for now, this is the recommended, or the appointments that President Cicada is making are included in the staff report here.
Anybody have any comments, or everybody okay with that?
Yep. Yes.
All right then. Okay, we don't need any action, any more motion or anything on that. So we'll move on to item.
Oh, do we have to vote for the JPAs?
Yes.
Oh. We didn't talk about them.
Sorry about that.
Do we have to
Okay,
vote
so
for the
the-
JPAs?
We're being told that yes, we do.
And those are staying the same.
So we just need a motion to accept the slate.
Okay, can we have a motion to accept the JPA members
So moved.
as presented here?
Second.
And do we have any public comment on that? None? Rebecca, can you take the vote?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
and President Cicada.
Yes. Anything else on that? It wasn't in my notes, sorry. All right, let's move on to item 4C, discussion and action regarding the urban and multi-benefit drought relief program. That would be John Griffin.
President, Vice President, and Director, good afternoon. This agenda item before you today is an administrative matter for submission of grant applications. The state has issued a call for projects under the 2021 Urban and Multi-Benefit Drought Relief Program administered by the Department of Water Resources. Staff has completed grant applications for 3 projects that fall within these allowable project types. These projects are CIP 11104, the Lake Tulloch Submerged Water Line Crossing, CIP number 15094, a Copper Cove Wastewater Secondary, Tertiary, and UV improvements, and CIP 15112, the Pond 6 Dam raise at the Copper Cove Wastewater Plant. Completion of these grant application forms was a significant effort, and I want to recognize a number of the team members that were integral in ensuring these applications were of a high quality. I want to recognize Jessica, Damon, Charles, Brad, and Kate. It was a great team effort in getting these wrapped up. So these grant funds would cover the construction costs for these projects, as well as some of our engineering costs for the secondary, tertiary, and UV improvements projects. The grant guidelines require that the board delegate authority to the general manager or designee to submit these grant applications and execute any grant agreements should the district be awarded a grant. The staff report before you and the resolutions request that the board authorize these actions. That concludes my report. I am available to answer any questions.
I'll move for acceptance.
Second?
We might have dropped off for a second.
What about Bertha? Are you out there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Any comments or questions for John?
Excuse me, in my reading somewhere, did I see reference to a study being started way back in 2006? As far as these projects were concerned? Or was that a different project?
I believe that is a different project.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you.
Jeff, do you have anything to comment or questions?
No, I just think that this staffer set the bar high for a short and concise staff report. And I hope we follow that.
I agree.
Jeff approves.
You set the bar high.
Well, I'm just wondering if the agenda would suggest that we could approve all of these together, but we have to go do them individually, is that correct?
We just need a motion for, it would be resolution 6 through 8.
6 through 8.
Are you making that motion?
Yes.
So,
We have a second?
second,
Any public comment? No. Seeing none, Rebecca, will you take the roll?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Kagan.
Yes.
And just so we don't set the bar too high on concise staff reports, if I could just make one quick comment.
Absolutely.
So I just want to acknowledge John for diving in, within a month, I think, of starting here to take advantage of this opportunity. He's right, it was absolutely a team effort between operations and engineering staff, which I had very little to do because they did such a fantastic job on it. And just want to acknowledge John for making sure we don't miss out on this opportunity on such short notice. So great job to the whole team. I think if I remember correctly, the combined total, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but if we were to be successful in all three of those, we'd be somewhere in the $30 million range. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
That is awesome. Good job, everybody. Good job.
Nice report, John. Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah,
Thank you.
very good.
Okay. So we'll be moving on to old business. Item number 5A, discussion action regarding approval of a CEQA addendum and authorizing notice of determination for West Point and Wilseyville wastewater treatment consolidation project.
President, at some point, if you want to take a quick break, and then things will be moving with the sound.
Okay, so we'll take a quick recess.
Yeah, so we'll do just a 5-minute break so that we can reboot the sound in the border, the sound quality, and hear through that. So just a quick recess, everybody stay online.
Thank you.
I don't think so yet, Bertha.
Oh, okay, here we are.
Time on that.
And to everybody that presented before this point, to everybody that presented up till now, we have no idea what you said, but thank you for the time anyways.
Okay, so let's go back again. We'll
Just
start
kidding.
with 5A, old business 5A, discussion action regarding approval of a CEQA addendum and authorizing notice of determination, West Point, Wilseyville wastewater treatment consolidation. That looks like Charles.
I move for
Hi,
acceptance.
Good afternoon. I will try to get through this quickly then.
Right.
So, yeah, so we previously went through this process in 2015. The board adopted a mitigated negative deck, and a notice of determination was filed in 2015. In the design process, our consultant, NextGen, determined that some minor changes would be beneficial to the project. In talking with Clean Water State Revolving Fund staff, they advised us that triggered us to have to do a CEQA addendum. So those changes are shown in your board packet. There should be several figures that illustrate the changes that were made. That include a change to the pipeline alignment that will reroute it through the CHIPS property. And then the Wilseyville pond, in this case, the Wilseyville treatment plant will be decommissioned, and the treatment pond will breach the levee dam there so that it doesn't collect rainwater and freely drains. To complete this requirement, Clean Water State Revolving Fund advised us to submit the addendum, CEQA addendum, through the state clearinghouse, which we did on December 12th. And we allowed a review period of 2 weeks ending January 3rd. We received comments from 2 different state agencies, including the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board and the Department of Transportation, or Caltrans. The comments from Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board were the same comments we received in 2015. So there's no follow-up items on those. The comments from Caltrans, they had not commented in 2015, so these were new comments. Our consultant NextGen, there was one question from Caltrans about additional runoff from our project working its way or flowing towards Highway 26 and impacting their drainage facilities. NextGen helped with an analysis to evaluate that and determine that, yes, there was a small amount of additional runoff that could, by just incorporating a 40-foot by 18-inch diameter culvert, that problem could be mitigated, and the flows would directing flows away from the highway. So we'll close the loop with Caltrans on that, but we believe that issue has been resolved. So today the board action is to approve the CEQA addendum as presented in the board packet. Approval would include the proposed changes as outlined. Just determination that these changes are not going to have a significant effect on the environment, and then just authorizing the general manager to file a notice of determination. That's
okay. Thank you, Charles. Anybody have any questions? You want to start with Bertha? Do you have any questions or comments for Charles?
I was just looking at the promptness of Caltrans answering. And that was,
yeah, they were not provided a whole lot of time to respond, so we do appreciate them responding.
Yes.
To that. They emailed me, and I talked with them, and they expedited their comments.
Yes, well, that was new and different, and I'm appreciative of that. Thank you.
Jeff,
Again,
do you have any comments?
I'll move for acceptance.
Second.
Second.
That's the only comment I.
Okay. That's fine. Any public comment? All right, we have a first and a second. Take a roll call vote.
Okay, Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Cicada.
Yes.
Thank you, Charles. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it looks really good. Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Charles.
right, going on to 5B. Update on the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, including recognition of Walt Ward for his contributions to SGMA. That will be Michael or Brad? Brad first.
Thanks, directors. Good, everyone. As noted in the memo, there's a couple updates to pass along with regards to the East Side Groundwater Sustainability Agency, or East Side GSA. A couple big things moving along with DWR and their review of our groundwater sustainability plan for the Eastern San Joaquin Subbasin, as well as a couple changes in participants and some other things happening for the governance of our GSA. So, as noted in the memo, the key thing is the November 18th DWR initial review letter received. This was received by the Groundwater Authority representing the entire Eastern San Joaquin Subbasin. As noted, it was an initial review, so DWR was able to take a look and to go through some of their thoughts, concerns, and things that may hold up ultimate approval of the GSP by DWR. The key things to note from that are that there is additional justification needed for identifying undesirable results in the subbasin. It's worth noting that even though a lot of times with regards to Sigma, there's a lot of talk about overdraft and other sorts of extensive use of our groundwater resources, there are other undesirable impacts that are needed to be resolved under Sigma, things such as land subsidence, surface and groundwater disconnects, etc. So there's other things besides overdraft that ultimately need to be managed sustainably, going into the future. In our subbasin, we tend to use monitoring wells and then certain water year types as a proxy for trying to understand what some of those conditions are. DWR's initial review letter simply said that there's just more data we need to supply them, as well as more justification as to why simply using our monitoring wells throughout the basin, not just in our portion, is a suitable proxy for some of these other concerns. Additionally, they are asking us to increase our outreach and engagement with other groundwater users, specifically with regards to domestic drinking water wells. So this was really the two key points from their initial review. This is not to say that our GSP failed or was found unsuitable under Sigma. It was just more of these are things that need to improve and more information provided to DWR so that ultimately the plan is not rejected under Sigma. It's worth noting that we have already started at the authority level to pull some of these considerations together. Our GSA representing the east side portion of the subbasin is going to be responsible specifically for the outreach and engagement portions with our domestic groundwater users in the northwestern part of the county, kind of around the Wallace-Burson area mostly. And so there's more we're going to have to do with outreach and engagement under the GSP and going forward. And then ultimately, when DWR does come out with their final decision, we're going to have 180 days to approve as a East Side GSA, and then the other GSAs in the subbasin as well. And so a lot there, but the key takeaway is that it's an initial review letter. We have time to make the corrective actions. Everyone at the authority level agrees these are not deal breakers. We should have time to bring the information together and satisfy and hopefully get the ultimate approval of our GSP for the basin. Speaking of the 180 days to approve, though, recall that given the way our governance structure for our GSA is currently configured, we are going to have to approve the GSP amendments or any sort of changes individually as separate districts, agencies, us, the county, Stanislaus County, etc. Which really brings me to the second point of this memo, which is that these sort of governance discussions for our GSA are ongoing. We're having a lot more insight and review of some of the key points for how we vote, participate as separate agencies and districts, how we deal with the fact that there is a Stanislaus Calaveras County line, and we obviously don't want to lose jurisdiction in our areas, while also making sure that the counties maintain jurisdiction in the areas that aren't covered by, let's say, us or VSPUD or others that have been participating. And so more to follow on that, nothing concrete yet, but those discussions are continuing. And then we hope in the future that whatever the let's call it implementation future of the GSA looks like, maybe a revised MOU or JPA or other sort of new governance structure. So like I said, more to follow on that, but that's just an update of the discussions that are happening between us, Stanislaus County, Calaveras County, and VSPUD at this time. And then the last key point on here, I'll just make a quick note before passing it over to Michael. is the retirement of one of the key people that have been involved in the GSA since its inception, and that's Mr. Walt Ward, the Water Resources Manager for Stanislaus County. I can say certainly since I joined the district and started participating with the Eastside GSA that he has been a key person helping me get up to speed on what's been done, the considerations for our portion of Stanislaus and Calaveras County in the groundwater basin. And he's been extremely helpful to me and courteous to others, and really a great resource that'll truly be missed because of his institutional knowledge, given he's going to be retiring here soon at the end of the month. So with that, I'll pass it over to Michael. I think he has some more words to say, as well as a resolution of appreciation for him.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. Before I do that, does the board have any questions about the GSA update and the other points that Brad raised?
Nope.
Excuse me, I would like to know, are you still having monthly meetings for this GSA like you were in the beginning, or?
Yeah, we are. We're still having those. Participants include myself, Michael, Director Thomas, representing CCWD, as well as others from the county and elsewhere. Yeah, we are.
On a
Well,
monthly
and there's
basis?
two different meetings that you might be referring to, the Groundwater Authority meetings. And those are also happening on a monthly basis, although today's was canceled. And we send a representative to we have a seat on that JPA board. So those meetings are still happening. And then we've also started meeting on a monthly basis among the Eastside GSA members.
Oh, okay, right. Because that was a fairly large group, if I
Still is.
remember.
Is it?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, for the
authority
Groundwater Authority, there
represents the
are,
base
I
of-
think it's 16 GSAs.
Yeah,
We're one
yeah.
of 16, yeah,
Mm-hmm,
You're meeting remotely?
they are meeting remotely.
okay.
Okay, if there's no other questions on the GSA update, I do want to just acknowledge Walt, and unfortunately it's a little bit anticlimactic because not only could we not be here in person, but Walt was not able to join us. And true to form, it's because he's in the process of helping yet another collaborative effort to adopt yet another GSP in a different basin. So up until his last day, he's still hard at work. But I do think it's still a good time for us to recognize him before he retires. And I will send him a link to the video so that if any of the directors want to make comments, and then we'll send him the resolution as well. So I just, Walt's been a huge, as Brad mentioned, just a huge resource for us, a huge asset for the Eastside GSA since its inception. And I think we've all learned a lot from him. So very grateful to Walt for his work and for what he brings in, personally and professionally. So with that, I will read a resolution that's before the board. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Calaveras County Water District recognizing Walter Ward for activities related to the Eastside San Joaquin Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Whereas Mr. Ward's career contributions to water resources management in Stanislaus County, the Sierra Nevada Foothills region, and within the Eastern San Joaquin groundwater subbasin have been invaluable and unparalleled. And whereas Mr. Ward has been critical in helping Calaveras County Water District form and maintain the Eastside San Joaquin Groundwater Sustainability Agency in response to the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act and the need to responsibly manage groundwater resources in the shared subbasin. And whereas Mr. Ward is known for his collaborative spirit and has overseen many multi-jurisdictional policy endeavors spanning across Calaveras, San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Tuolumne counties and beyond. And whereas Walt has often reminded his colleagues that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, further instilling his commitment to finding collaborative solutions to tough problems, especially in navigating the requirements of SGMA. And whereas Walt has been a dedicated, enthusiastic, and affable professional with a sharp wit and sense of humor, and he has further enriched those fortunate enough to know and work with him. And whereas the Calaveras County Water District Board of Directors expresses its appreciation and gratitude for his contributions to the Eastside GSA and wishes him well in his retirement and all the years to come. For the board.
Very good. Want to go ahead and do a motion?
Yeah, I would like to make the motion that we get this, the resolution acknowledging Walter Ward, framed with a gold frame and, maybe a 4x8, like that.
Sure.
But in all seriousness, Walt has been a significant player in the water issues in the Stanislaus County area since, I think, right after the arc went aground. So it's been a long time,
Yeah.
but he is a great guy. And your comments about his sense of humor I think that's really very appropriate. He's a funny guy, but we'll miss him.
I'll second it.
We'll miss him indeed.
Who was the second?
Director Davidson.
Can we go ahead and get a roll call, please?
Public comment.
Any public comment?
I think he had to drop off, but Peter was on the call with us for a little while, but I think he had to go. But he did help with the preparation of the resolution, and Brad did as well. So just, I think Walt's one of those people that when he had an impact on everybody who got to work with him.
You said Peter was on the call?
He was briefly there, yeah.
Peter Barr.
All right, any public comment? None, okay, let's take the vote and then we could have any other comments to Walt. We want to video those.
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Davidson,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Cicada.
Yes.
Well, I
Any,
have a couple of comments. Cindy, yes, I'd like to acknowledge Walt's. I've had a chance to meet him a couple times. I've never really seen him in action working on this sustainability program, but everything I've heard about him over the years has been just awesome. I know we wanted him here on our team, and I think we had him for a couple days before he backed out. And I'd like to congratulate him for all his hard work and thank him. Very, very appreciative of his involvement in this program, and I think everyone here at our district is better off for working with him. And this sustainability, our SGMA involvement has been much improved because of him being there. And thank you, Walt.
Anyone else have any comments? Well wishes to Walt? Well, good luck, Walt, and enjoy retirement, and thank you for all your service. Anything else? We'll move on to board reports. Right? Am I missing something? Yep, board reports.
Operations report first.
All right, so report on the December 2021 operations and engineering departments. That would be Damon.
Good afternoon, President Cicada and directors. I think it's easy to point out that the capstone for December was the storms, but I don't think any operations report would be complete without starting with a few pictures of some service lateral work that took place in Rancho Calaveras. So just another one here, 7 full circle clamps, 4 in-process leaks when this line was replaced. It was an interesting month in December. We had 4 water line breaks at district facility. So this is the service line to the West Point water treatment plant. You can see the leak in the image on the left at the connection to the valve, and then the repair on the right. This is a failure on a 2-inch PVC line that feeds the West Point wastewater treatment facility. You can see that bell crack. This is a tap saddle full failure off of Myrtle in Rancho Calaveras. You can see the kind of hole that the water created when it blew the tap saddle off. It finally just eroded. And then here's this second picture shows you what a water line looks like with a tap in it without a tap saddle. And you can see the water's just shooting out of that main in the ground there. And it does look like that is Merton Formation next to the water main where the tube is for the gap vacs for the Vector truck. Looks like it's sitting right next to essentially cut concrete. And so now on to winter storm response. This is an image showing power lines across Highway 4. This occurred multiple times, basically from the 23rd of December. We were dealing with storm issues through the new year. So this happened often, and oftentimes when all staff that were up on the pass trying to respond to generator refueling efforts or communication efforts or address issues, they would find themselves stuck on a road somewhere dealing with down tree or down power line. This is what it looks like when our mechanics are out fueling generators at night and in the afternoon at remote sites to keep pump stations operating and telemetry operating. This was a constant effort, and I just can't say enough great things about our mechanics. Cameron Edens and Eric Davis, two newer staff members, just did a phenomenal job up on the pass. Morano has taught them well. You can see here, the picture on your left is a depiction of our Polaris snow machine in action with a fuel tank on the back. Pat and Kelly Gerkensmeyer did a phenomenal job in the midst of heavy snow, actually getting access to our Avery pump station. We had some moments of consternation there where we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get access to fuel the generator. And that pump station is kind of one of the main arteries to supply water up to Arnold and above. So it was great success when they were able to use this snow machine to get in there and get that generator refueled. They did an excellent job. A couple more pictures just to kind of show you what a con vault looks like up at a site. We usually keep those locked up. You can see the lock on top of the tank, and mechanics nozzle from his fuel hose off of the truck into the vault, and then the indication device on the left. Access, like I said, access was a constant issue. The image on your left, you can see a service truck in front of the tree. We do have staff kept chainsaws on their vehicles. They were able to get access. I think Pat and Kelly's effort up to Avery Tank was, I think they had to cut through 15 different trees that were down across that road. And you can see the image on your right, PG&E workers looking to open up some access to some different areas to allow folks to get in and out of sites. Once again, the snow machine in action, keeping the White Pines barn, yard, and area clean and clear so we can deploy whenever we need to. Snow removal was a constant effort. You know, folks on the construction crew were removing snow at all the stations. It was just a huge effort on everyone's part. This is an example of the magic of the Sierra cement as it toppled our communications tower on top of the Hunter's water treatment plant. Actually started to push the comm tower over. And this is the picture our electrician Craig is pointing to on the right. And so we had to secure a lift. This was around the New Year holiday, and actually get up on top of that building and restore that tower so we could see the tank levels of all the tanks up on the pass. And this is kind of an indication of what our operators look at. Scott Lunsford worked tirelessly up on the pass to make sure that all of those tanks were in water and communication was restored. So that often means snowshoeing into sites we don't have any access to also. So yeah, it was quite an end to 2021. Hats off to the crews. They did an excellent job. And with that, I will take any questions you might have about the project.
Well, I just have a couple of comments for you, Damon, and that's the fact that you know that I live in it, but I don't work in it, and I have nothing but wonderful feelings. And your staff is just great to go out there in the snow. It's 4 to 5, 6 feet of snow and repair all of the equipment that we have or the facilities. It's just outstanding, and they are to be commended time and time again.
Thank you, Bertha. I will relay the good wishes. Yeah, it's a heck of a work effort to keep everything in power. They did great jobs.
Scott, do you have anything?
Yeah, good, great report again. Good photos. I knew that was a tough time for our staff, and if you'd pass on kudos from me as well. And it's a lot of hard work. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jeff? Okay, I'm just asking you folks because you're online and sometimes it's easier to ask instead of everybody talk at one time. Russ, we good?
This is the first time I've seen that Polaris snow mobile or that little recreational vehicle. Do people actually compete for the opportunity to drive that?
Yes, they do. Actually, Director Thomas. Yes, they do. Yes, I mean that's quite a popular vehicle during events like this.
And the
Yep.
district owns. We have only one of those.
Well, we do have the vintage Snowcat that is in front of the mechanics shop that we are trying to find a way to restore to full operation, because actually we could keep 300 gallons of fuel in the back of that machine. It's just we've had a heck of a time finding repair and replacement parts for that. So there's a dark group within the field staff that need to see that thing surplused, and they're trying to sway the group that wants to see it in operation because they feel like it's just kind of it's not going to work out. We can't find the parts.
Well, what kind of parts are needed?
I think we need to start basically from the bottom up. We need to replace, I mean, even not so much, I mean, there's motor issues, but it's also transmission, it's driveline issues, and it's actually floor seats. The way you steer the device is with it's a stick. So it's very complicated. I believe it's from the 60s.
Is it 1860s?
You know what? Something from the 1860s might have worked out better during this storm, I tell you.
Anyway, good.
If anybody would know, it'd be Russ.
Yeah.
Yeah, Damon, very good report. And like Bertha said, you know, living in it, it seems to be fun and you don't have to go out in it, but when you have to work in it, it can be a challenge. So thank you to all the staff and getting it done. Appreciate that.
Excuse me, one more thought, and I said to Damon, if the fellas need anything, get it for them. That's all I have to say.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is that a blank check?
Almost.
Any public comment out there? All right, 6B, General Manager's Report.
Okay, I will try to be brief on a short list of items I have here. One is just that in addition to the grant applications that John presented today, that same team has also been hard at work, and Charles has taken the lead largely on notices of interest for FEMA grant opportunity that has come up, and we're looking at submitting potentially for a couple of different projects under that notice. We also met with UPUD and made them aware of that opportunity, and you know, just trying to see if they were interested in submitting for an emergency intertie between our distribution systems, because we think this would be a really great opportunity for that project. So we met with Matt Hospital, and he's following up on their end. We may be submitting, if they do decide to apply, we may be submitting a letter of support along with their grant application, and just so that the funding agency knows that, you know, we're obviously a partner agency on that, and we'd be in support of that project. So we're looking at our own projects, but you know, that would largely be a project to benefit UPUD, so it would make sense for them to be the lead applicant and take the lead on that process, but we want to also help them along the way. So that work is in process. Brad mentioned already some updates on the East Side GSA, but those meetings have been more productive recently, and the county's shown a renewed engagement, and so we're going to continue those discussions. We have several new employees. A new treatment plant operator started this week. He comes with a lot of experience, which is really hard to find. It's a tight labor market, so finding employees with the right certifications and the right experience is really tough. So we're very excited about that. Unfortunately, I failed to mention during the audit presentation, this was Patty Christensen's last audit, and so Catherine has already started. The new accountant, they've had about a month of overlap, so they've been working hand in hand to make sure she's up to speed, and she's fantastic. Also comes with a lot of experience, so she's able to hit the ground running. We'll have a couple of new faces in customer service this month. They haven't started yet, but over the next couple of weeks, we'll have a new customer service representative, and we'll have filled the customer service supervisor, the newly created position, with somebody that brings a lot of experience in that field, including having done some utility billing software transitions and AMI meter integration work, all of that in her background already. So we're really excited to get her experience and get her on board. So just there's been a lot of turnover, and we have multiple recruitments out right now as well. So doing everything we can to get fully staffed. We touched on briefly in response to Director Davidson's question, just a lot of work right now going into long-term planning for infrastructure funding. There's been some discussion of that at the Finance Committee already. We plan on bringing more back, and then a presentation to the full board as well. That's kind of in conjunction with, we have mid-year budget review coming up. And so and then go right into budget prep for next year. So all that kind of dovetails together. But we are looking at, we're going to need to use some of that borrowing capability that we have to implement the projects in the CIP, and the borrowing conditions are favorable right now, so we want to make sure we don't miss those opportunities. We had, this is going back a few weeks now, but it's been a while since our last board meeting. But we did another round of meetings. Our virtual DC trip met with representatives from our elected officials and Army Corps staff. Very productive meetings. Mia, again, did just a fantastic job of making sure we were prepared and setting up those meetings and keeping the effort on track to secure funding, both in the next year and also increasing our authorization to secure more funding down the road. So another round of very successful meetings on that front. We did not have a meeting with Congressman McClintock's staff, and found out soon after that was probably because, as y'all heard, probably by now his wife passed away tragically. So we made sure to send our condolences to him, and really tragic circumstances. So we just, heartfelt condolences to Congressman McClintock. We are, had a meeting with the new GM at CPUD. He brings a lot of experience and is highly qualified. I think it's exciting to see CPUD going in a new direction, and we look forward to continuing to work with him. I participated on the interview panel for UPUD's vacant GM position. Bill Eltringham's still there. He's going to fill kind of the operation manager role for a while, but they are looking to fill the GM position there. So it will be, for the first time in probably more than 50 years, a GM not named Eltringham.
Yeah.
That's a milestone, or it's a new era for UPUD one way or another. But they had some good candidates, and so I'm sure they'll. Oh, sure. Look at that. Peter jumped back in. So I'm sure they'll be making an appointment, I don't know, maybe in the next month, there'll be another round of interviews. And since I think that was Peter that just jumped back in, so why don't we just return, Peter, we already did the resolution for Walt, but you want to take a minute out of my comments to say hi and make any comments you wanted to for Walt, and we'll make sure to pass those along.
There's Peter. Hi, Peter.
Hi, all. Yeah, sorry to jump on and off. I've been in meetings all day, but yeah, just was hopeful I could catch Walt, but it sounds like I won't. But definitely, thinking back to the times when we first started the efforts on the, groundwater sustainability planning, and Walt kind of pulled me aside and said, let's take a run at this, looking at it from a regional perspective to perhaps not duplicate efforts. And that's kind of the things that he typically does. And, definitely a collaborator, and definitely wish Walt well in his, whatever his future endeavors are in retirement. So, and it's very nice to see you all too as well.
You too. Thank you, Peter.
Hey, Peter, this is Russ. I just wanted to tell you that there's still a note on those files back there that says, Peter, go through these files.
Maybe I should just come back and we can go through this together. I don't know.
Good to see you.
Yeah, same to you.
Good to see you, Peter.
Good to see you, Peter.
Peter.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Thanks for jumping back in, and we'll pass all that along to Walt for sure. And we'll send you a copy of the resolution so you can see what our board adopted. Okay, thank you, Peter. And where did I leave off? I just want to acknowledge real quick, several of our operations and engineering staff met with EID staff. EID is struggling with recovery from the Caldor fire and some water quality issues that they were having. And they knew that we had gone through that after the Butte fire in 2015. And so they requested a meeting, and our staff made themselves available and had a productive discussion with the EID staff, and just an example of kind of agency collaboration and tackling a challenging issues. So I want to acknowledge our staff, and I think it was Damon and Charles and some others that were involved in that. So thank you guys for participating in that effort. And then lastly, as everybody knows, we're back into another COVID surge and outbreak status here at the office. We are going to agendize an item, as the board requested, to provide an update on our policy. At this point, after the last board meeting, we went back into mandatory masks. Right now, they're state mandate, but we also have, under our outbreak precautions, a mask mandate in the office. We've had I think 7 or 8 different staff members test positive within the last few weeks. So far, no one with severe symptoms, and that's what we're really grateful for, and really hoping everybody makes it back soon and healthy. And we'll emerge from this outbreak status as soon as we can. I think right now we're projected to emerge on the 20th, and hopefully be able to have the next board meeting back to whatever the last normal was that we had.
We don't know.
But we also are adopting, we'll also present on an updated COVID prevention plan that is in the works right now, that Jessica and Stacy are working on, that adopts the new CDC recommendation, which is just now being adopted by Cal OSHA, to implement a shorter return to work time. And so we're going to update our policy to stay current with that. And we'll bring that back to present to the board on our COVID prevention policy. And I believe that was it.
Thank you. Any questions for Michael?
I would like to know, are we providing the N95 and N94 masks at work?
We do. I mean, we have disposable masks available for everybody, and we have N95 masks. that can be made available. So yes, we have, and right now, I know procurement on COVID supplies is tough, but to my knowledge, we have not had any lack of availability of masks, thanks to the work Mike Crank does in procuring supplies. He's very much on top of that stuff. We had, for a while, we were able to get rapid tests and so that we could provide to employees who needed them. Those are hard to come by these days. And I think the suppliers and manufacturers are prioritizing school districts and county public health departments as they should. And so I don't know when we'll be able to get any of those again, but as far as masks go, I don't think we've had any shortages.
Mhm. Because did I not hear that it was going to be a requirement statewide for the N95?
Not to my knowledge, no. I mean, they are looking at potentially adopting standards for face coverings, for acceptable face coverings. I don't know if they're going to shift to an N95 requirement to satisfy the face covering requirement. They haven't done that yet, but I know that they are looking at what is an acceptable face covering.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Michael, do you have any comments about the building progress that's being made?
Yeah, it's, it's interesting I think at the last board meeting, I don't recall who it was, but somebody made a comment about the walls not being up yet, and it was within a week of the last board meeting, the walls were up. So the walls have gone up, the roof is up, the siding is all on. They're starting to put the roof paneling on this week, and so there's been just a lot of progress on the courtyard. We're excited about that.
Won't they be pulling off? I mean, that their responsibility is just to build a shell.
That's right. So once they're complete, and the last update I had was they were projecting to be complete by the end of this month, and I haven't heard any different yet. I don't know if they're still on track for that, but it looks like they are. And then, yeah, we'll have some, we'll move to the next phase, which is interior improvements and the rest of the site work.
I don't know how others on the board feel about their performance, but it's been very impressive to me. If we do have an opportunity to go back at the end of the month to a more typical board meeting, could we get one of those principals in so that we could express our appreciation for their perseverance, and they've been out there in some pretty.
Should we go see it first?
Well, we won't tell them that yet, because we want them to maintain that level of attentiveness. But no, yeah, they've been great. The owner, it's a smaller contractor, and he's on site most of the time, keeping a very close eye on things. We've had some questions about, some of the details along the way from time to time, but for the most part, they've been super responsive and really, easy to communicate with, easy to work with. We've been happy with them.
Well, I think that when you have a good contractor, cultivate a relationship with them. We may need them in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to board reports, information, and future agenda items. And we'll start with Bertha.
And do I have a hot agenda item I'd like to propose? And I'd like to take a look at the policy on providing, let me see, because I just got a letter from the Meadowmont Shopping Center. The shopping center has 25 separate units, 18 are unoccupied. And each suite is served with a separate water meter, and there are 2 water meters dedicated to landscaping. So can you imagine what kind of a water bill he's got? And I know we have a policy that has been discussed time and time again. Can we look at it one more time and see if there's something we haven't thought of?
Yep, we're aware of that issue. We've met with the new owners, and we can have that policy discussion at the board. Absolutely.
That's what I propose.
Very good.
Okay, there's still a lot of snow up here. I'm still in my snow cave. But looking at the work that the fellas are doing out there during the storms and everything, it's just, they do miraculous work. And I certainly appreciate that. And I know the entire board does. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertha. Jeff, do you have anything to report? Comment?
No, nothing to report. Just anxious for the new year to get rolling.
Okay, Scott, do you have anything to report?
Nothing to report.
All right, Russ.
I just want to tell you that I've been doing some more investigation on the saleability of those brass components in the water meters. And if Damon is available after this meeting is over, and you, Michael, can I share with you the information that I found?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Is that a dog?
Sounds like somebody else
So-
wants to hear that as well.
Somebody needs to mute words that wherever that noise is coming from. Again, if you're not speaking, as Rebecca asked, please mute your phone if you're not presenting and speaking at the time. Or
Probably
board-
my dog.
I like the dog.
It sounds like Scott's dog to me.
Okay, Russ, that was it for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
The only thing I have to report is there's no IRWM meeting in January for either the WAC or the JPA. So next board meetings are January 26th and February 9th. And we are now going to go into closed session. 9A, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to potential litigation, 2 cases. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, let's go into closed session. The time is what, 2:46? All right, so board, stay online, right? Rebecca, you're going to close everybody else out?
Rebecca, can you turn the recording off too?
For,
Thanks.